Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to look at my production PC that I built for 2018. Now this is not a budget build, this is about what works good for me, and then you can apply it to what your needs are. So if you don't use a lot of virtual instruments and plugins, then you probably don't need the same CPU that I have. So I got this CPU because it was in the budget and it fits my needs. It's overkill, yes, but hey, in 5 years, my prediction is it won't be overkill. Without further ado, here we go. The first thing, most important thing, processor. I went with the Intel i9. It's a 7940X, the 14 core one. It has a baseline clock of 3.1 gigahertz, but you can overclock it, so that's part of why I got it. Next is, well, let's talk about the motherboard. Motherboard, this guy, right here, the Asus X299 Prime Deluxe. And I went with the Deluxe because I'm using the Thunderbolt 3 for the Apollo back here. And on the PC, it's not the greatest thing, man. I mean, to try it, when it works fine. Just sometimes it doesn't want to connect and stuff like that. So okay, next up is RAM, and I went with Corsair Vengeance LPX. That's a 32 gig kit, and I have 2 of them, so 64 gigs. Might be a thumbnail. Alright, before I move on to the next thing, let's talk about this memory for a second. I got the 2666 megahertz version. It works fine. If you're not going to overclock anything and get crazy, this is XMP, so it will run at a higher clock than advertised, so keep that in mind. It's been fine. And the reason why I went with 64 gigabytes is just that's what I had on my other machine, and I never have to worry about RAM. I can run tons of samples. I can run tons of sample libraries and contacts and omnispheres and a bunch of stuff, and I never have to really worry about it. So that's the reason I did it. It is pricey, especially right now. Memory prices are really high, so if it's in your budget, do it. I would say start with at least 16 gigs. 32 is better. Obviously 64 is overkill, but you don't have to really think about it and worry about it, because at 16 gigs I can overload that pretty easy with some contact libraries that I have. So just keep that in mind. Next up is the hard drive, and the drive I chose was the Samsung 960 EVO, the M.2. And this is a 500 gigabyte version, and that was the reason I went with 500. Is a budget issue. I didn't have enough money to get a terabyte. I would have liked to get a terabyte. Next up, video card. I went with the AMD, the RX 570. This is just based on price, my budget, and I don't need a crazy video card because I don't do any gaming or anything like that. I do edit videos. You know, if you like NVIDIA, go ahead and go with NVIDIA. So I went with the AMD this time. It's what I had in the Mac. Never had any issues with it. Works fine. So I just need this to be invisible and not give me any problems. And it does that. So moving on is the power supply. Now, I did splurge on the power supply. I went with this guy right here, the Seasonic 850 watt prime titanium, and the only reason I went with the titanium model is it has a 12-year warranty, and I want to keep the PC, and just after a few years I'll upgrade the motherboard and processor and memory, whatever else is incompatible. But you can generally keep the power supply, the case, some hard drives, so that's kind of what I was thinking on that one. Now you don't have to spend as much as I did on the power supply. You can get, Corsair makes a good one. There's tons of good ones out there. So that's just a personal choice. Next we have the cooler, which is super important because of this guy. These run hot. I went with a water cooler, an AIO, all in one. This is a 360 millimeter radiator, so a lot of cooling there. That's about it. And then I have a couple drives that I had out of my other machine. I have some SSDs, Samsung Pros from my other build. I have 3 of those, 3 500 gigabyte drives. I put those in there. Those are for all my samples and everything, and recordings, and video scratch discs. For the case, I went with an Enermax case, and I'll leave a link in the description below of which one I chose. So that's about it for the computer. I want to keep it short and sweet. I'm just going to roll a little B footage to just show you what it looks like and how it turned out, and then that's it. I'm not going to do any benchmarks or anything unless you guys really want to see that. Let me know in the comments if you want to see it, and I'll do a separate video on maybe some benchmarking. So here's the shots of the machine, and talk to you later.